you don't pick the biggest possible square root when you start your problem. So if I said, for instance, the square root of 96. All right, so you have to find a perfect square that goes into that. What goes into 96? What if I did 4? Is 4 a perfect square? Mm-hmm. Okay. 96 is 4 times 24. Right? The square root of 4 is 2. Is this as reduced as it can be? No. No. At the end, you always need to look at the number under the radical. Can it be divided by any perfect squares? Yes. Yes. What could I break 24 into? 4. Right, so sometimes you may not get the biggest perfect square the first time. It doesn't mean you're going to get the wrong answer. It means you have to break it down one more time. So the square root of 4 is 2, so that's a 2, times the 2 I already have, and I get 4 radical 6. Now, the other option was, if you did get the biggest square root, the first time you might have realized this is 16 and 6. Square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of 6. So we get the same answer. It's a longer process if you don't get the biggest square root to begin with, but you're not necessarily wrong. You just have to keep going. So at the end, always check the number under your square root to see if it can reduce any more. Does that make sense to everyone? Let's take a look at, we have just a few of these left. Before I work through them, I want you guys to take a couple minutes and try. So if you can get through all 3, great. Just start with the first one and get through as many as you can. 17. What could you divide 117 by? Okay, so check 9 times 13 is 117. The square root of 9 is 3, so it comes out of the radical. 13, is it divisible by any perfect squares? No, so that just stays. So 3 radical 13 is our answer. All right, 28. What can we do that one by? 4 and 7. The square root of 4 is 2. Is 7 divisible by any perfect squares? No, so it's just 2 radical 7. All right, 450. That one was probably a little bit harder to find. What did you guys come up with?
15.
So I heard 2 different things. 9 and 50 would work. I saw someone do 25 and what? 18. When we look at either of those, so. Okay, does 9 times 50 equal 450? Yes. Does 25 times 18 equal 450? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, when I do the square root of 9, that is 3. Is 50 divisible by any perfect squares? Yeah. What could I break 50 into? 25 and 2. So it means we didn't get the biggest perfect square to begin with. But it doesn't mean we can't get it. So then if we reduce, the square root of 25 is 5. So it's just like 3 times 5. So 15 radical 2. If you did 25 and 18, the square root of 25 is 5. But is 18 divisible by any perfect squares? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could break that into 9 and 2. Square root of 9 is 3. 5 times 3 gives us 15 radical 2. So we get it both ways. Did anyone find the biggest perfect square? What did you do?
I did 225.
Square root of 225 is 15, and the square root of 2 stays. Okay, so we just did that one 3 different ways, but we got the same answer every time. So if you can't find the biggest perfect square, it's not a big deal. Just make sure that your final answer can't reduce anymore. All right. Any questions about those? the next thing, the perfect cubes, I am actually not going to do a lot with those this year. We're really just going to focus on breaking down the square roots. But I do want to make sure you know how to do a perfect cube on your calculator. So we are just going to go down to this section, the ones that work out nicely, and make sure you guys know how to put those in the calculator here. So you'll notice these are different because they have an index of 3. Remember, the index is that small number outside the radical. So if you are using these, the cube root of 8 is not the same thing as the square root of 8. If you want a cube root, you see this math button, it's under your green one. So if you push math, and you see number 4 here is a cube root. So you do math number 4. So then we have the cube root of 8, and it gives me 2. So I'm only going to have you do the perfect ones on the cubes, the ones that work out evenly. And I just want to make sure you can put them in your calculator. So this next one, the cube root of 729. So we have to go to math, the 4th one, and the cube root of 729 is 9. Did anyone not get that on your calculator? Make sure everybody's trying to plug these in. Cube root of 1,331. So math, cube root 1,331, and get 11. All right, you can have negatives. So if we do the cube root of -1, it tells me -1. The cube root -343 is -7. And what do you get for the cube root of -27? Alright, so any cube roots that I give you will be ones that you can just put in a calculator and get the answer. I'm not going to have you reduce those. Is this okay? So we are going to practice